welcome to another episode of Strictly Healthy. On this show, of course, we look at various aspects affecting us personally, and we do this along with various experts who will share with us various tips and solutions to help us in various ways. Now, on today's show, we will be covering mental health issues, and that is with the help of Lorraine Stamp, who is a happiness coach. So I want to welcome you in, Lorraine. How are you today, Lorraine?
I'm good, thank you. It's been a great day. I've had some really great conversations with clients. So yeah.
Have you? Oh, well done. That's a good start, isn't it? Having a good day and a good start is always amazing. Very good. So now I just want to find out a little bit about you. Now, I introduced you as the happiness coach. Is that a fair sort of statement to say?
I love when you talk about happiness, because obviously that helps from a psychological perspective when you talk about the word happy, because you can't help but smile when you talk about that. But yeah, so I consider myself a transformational personal mindset, mind shift and transformational coach. So that helps people with happiness, with mindfulness.
Mhm.
I also help people in business as well. So there's kind of a few hats that I have, but predominantly it's all about the mindset.
Okay, good. Well, we'll get into that in a minute, but I want to first find out more about you and sort of how you got started in this whole thing, deciding to get involved in dealing with mindfulness and mindset, etc., and being a happiness coach. How did you get involved?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, I kind of worked in the arena of learning and development for over 20 years, working for big corporates, and kind of decided that I felt I wasn't able to help people from a real individual level. And so I decided to go back and study. And that kind of, I suppose, aspired then into me setting up my own business. But it wasn't just that, it was also because of my own story and my own adversity in life. I think when
Right.
you've had that, it obviously helps you to understand on a different level. I think understanding the knowledge and obtaining the knowledge is one thing, but actually when you've experienced how mental health impacts you, your mind, your body, you're able to help sort of clients in even deeper level.
Okay, well let's backtrack a bit because you mentioned something very interesting there. You said you had something occurred in your life. Did you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically I felt like I was living somebody else's life, got very consumed and lost myself. I lost my identity. I was pretty much showing up in society with all these different masks on, and I'd lost my own authentic Lorraine. So
Why is that?
just purely because of the environment and the people that I was surrounded by. They had pretty much told me I was a different person, and it was quite negative.
Ah,
Um, yeah,
like a
so
toxic kind of environment.
definitely, yeah.
Mhm.
And the good old imposter kind of kicks in when you're constantly told that you're not good enough, and that you'll
Yeah.
never be successful, and you're just they kind of they push you down, they crush you and all that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think even some of the people that I worked for, I felt like I was being held back.
Okay. So you obviously went about changing that by educating yourself and
Yes.
changing your own mindset and getting
Yeah.
involved in what you're doing now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest freedom for me to create that change was when I went on the big battlefield bike ride. So I had some freedom in my life to do a bike ride, 350 miles in 5 days. And it was purely the power of my mind that got me through it. So again, it's that, we are our own worst critique. We're our own worst enemy when it comes to how we work our brain. So
Sure.
actually when we learned how to really effectively use our brain, we're able to kind of push through that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. You said about this bike ride. Where did that sort of take you then?
So we started in a place just outside of France in Lille, and we cycled through to a place in Arnhem in Holland.
Oh.
So there were 250 riders. Some of them were soldiers, and it was basically to raise money, but also it was a
Hmm.
challenge that I didn't own a bike, I wasn't fit, I didn't I didn't know how to ride in groups, and I certainly didn't know how to ride on the other side of the road. So there were a lot of things to kind of overcome, and the
Hmm.
first 19 miles in, I actually fell off and broke my hand, but I still carried on.
Oh wow! But you challenged yourself, obviously, and
Yeah,
you certainly had the right mindset in that you kept on persisting and
yeah.
carrying on with it. Yeah,
The
very good.
mind is, yeah, the mind is so powerful. When my message to myself was, I'm here to ride, whatever happens,
Yes.
I'm here to ride.
Mm.
And that just kept that momentum going.
Very good. Good. So let's get into it a little bit then. There's a lot of mentioned about stress today, you know, and a lot of awareness about stress and how it affects us, our mental health. And I mean, even the royals are not untouched by this sort of thing. So what can you tell us today about stress and what we can do about it?
Okay, so as soon as we use the word stress, it evokes stress in us. So actually, even the word itself is not helpful. But
Okay.
actually, there's different levels of stress. Um, we do need stress to get out of bed in the morning. So a little bit of stress is actually good for us. That gives us adrenaline. It gives us that,
Sure.
excitement and energy. But it's when stress becomes prolonged over time. Because I think, we need
Yeah.
to go through a process of stress, rest. And that's like a good way of dealing with stress. When we
Mm,
have stress that gets accumulated over time, our body holds it, and
So,
almost our base level increases, and we become accustomed to it, and we
hmm
almost then want it. It's like a craving, we want more, but
yes.
then our
Yeah.
body is then taking the default level up even more, to the point that if we're in continuous long periods of stress, it will cause symptoms such as headaches, neck and
Hmm.
stiffness. It can cause us to feel really groggy, lethargic, fatigue, irritable, low
Yeah.
mood,
Mm.
and also it causes pain within our body. We can hold stress as in pain, people that have constant aches in their lower back. So it shows up. Our body is built as a system for us to understand when we are in stress. So
Mm.
when we have no stress, generally speaking, we feel a lot lighter. We feel in a good mood. We feel that we can face anything that gets thrown at us. When we're stressed, we're in an irrational and emotional state, because what's happened is that threat part of the
Hmm.
brain is activated, and
Hmm.
therefore we're then reacting in a way that we're not really choosing, because we don't have control over it.
So, how then do you help people then deal with stress, anxiety, overwhelm?
Mhm.
How can we deal with that and reduce it really?
Yeah, there's lots of things. I think one of the key things is that we are all different, and what one size doesn't fit all. So some people, and there's big talks at the moment with people understanding how to deactivate the fight, flight, freeze mechanism within our brain, which
Yeah.
is causing that a rush of a cortisol, because it's what it's saying is we need to survive. So what the first thing is we need to get that base level down. So we need to tell the brain to relax and we're okay. And the best and easiest and quickest way to do that is to concentrate on our breath. So
Yes,
by
I've heard
doing
about
some,
this.
yeah, doing quick, not doing quick, but doing breathing activities that stabilize us back into almost like a grounded position. So there's techniques. Everyone has their own sort of style. One breathing technique that I really recommend is square breathing. It can be done in a matter of about 6 minutes,
Can
and
you
it
give
will.
us an example?
Yeah. So basically with any breathing activity, the idea is that you're sat in an erect position, but with relaxed shoulders, your head slightly
Let me try that.
don't put your head back like this, just have your head here, your
Straight.
relaxed shoulders. And if you close your eyes, you'll get a deeper experience, because obviously you're turning off one of the sensories and therefore not using as much energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want to do is we want to get the breath past your chest, deep down into the belly. You know, when we're born, we're belly breathers. As we get adults, it becomes a lot shallower. So we want to get that breath right down. And what you do is you breathe in for the count of 4. You hold it for 4. You breathe out for 4. And then you breathe, pause for 4. And it is, you know, just a, you know, and again in your own pace. So your count of 4. And then you do that. When I ask people to do it, they do it in a cycle of 11 to start. Because if you imagine with a breathing activity, if you're not used to it, it's going to send oxygen around your body. And what that does is obviously makes you feel a little lightheaded. So that's why you want to be grounded, feet on the floor. And when you're really comfortable, the best way to breathe is in through your nose and out through your nose. We're not meant to breathe through our mouth. No. And the reason why is because up our nostrils, we've got little fine hairs, and they're actually catching all of the toxins, the pathogens, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
Filtering things, isn't it? Yeah.
Definitely. So, you know, that will basically reset your, you know, that stress. It will deactivate the amygdala, which is your fight, flight, freeze, bring that down. It will tell the brain to relax.
So we need to sort of something to trigger us to remember to do that. Because, I mean, sometimes we're working away all day long, or we're on Zoom calls and, you know, we're not thinking about how tense we're getting and our shoulders going up, etc. So any mechanism for that? Or
I think as well, whilst we're sort of in this situation, working from home, working in office, we're sat watching, you know, Zoom sessions and all that kind of stuff, is, you know, we need to be mindful that we're in one position all the time, and that is also not what our body is used to. We need to get up and we need to move. So taking regular breaks, standing up, stretching your body out, you know, even if it's just simple, you know, like movements like this, bringing this up, you know, turning your neck, because we're designed to move. We're not designed to just sit in a chair. If you can imagine, it's almost like, you know, the plumbing of your washing machine. If the pipes get kinked, things slow down. So when you're sat in a chair, you're slowing everything down, or your blood system or your digestive system. So by just standing up and moving around, you can obviously get that supply back working how it should be.
Very good. Yes. So now there's a lot been said about dementia and sort of what's going on with that, and keeping our minds going on a regular basis, and certain tasks that we can do to help that. What about routine tasks? What can you say to help us to in dealing with daily routines and so on?
I think, you know, again, this is a question that we need to be mindful of what works for an individual. Again, it depends on your typical routine. So some people are really early risers, you know, they're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and, you know, they'll go and take the dog for a walk, and then they'll come and have their breakfast and all that kind of stuff. And I think it is a case of what works for you. When you have routine, it creates certainty. And I think, go back to the word you talked about earlier, stress. When we're in a time of change and we're in a time of uncertainty, we as humans need routine of such. So it's putting in a routine that you feel works for you. You know, there is proof that actually getting up early and having some me time before you actually even start any work or tasks or anything like that helps you to be in the right set of the right mindset. So I tend to adopt a practice which pretty much means that I get out of bed, I do meditation, I do some form of body stretch kind of get my body working, because obviously it's been laid flat for 7.5, 8 hours.
Sure.
And I also do some form of self-study. That could be reading, it could be journaling, it could be watching or listening to a podcast or a YouTube. So that is my hour dedicated.
But when do you get up then? How early do you get up to do that?
So generally speaking, 6 a.m. is my time I get up. So I've got 6 till 7. That is my dedicated time to kind of get into a good place. And then I'll have breakfast. And my breakfast has changed dramatically over probably the last 18 months. So I will always eat things that my body needs. And it's making sure that you're setting yourself up for the day ahead, eating something quite light but nutritious, things like avocado, eggs, things like granola with fruit, or it could be a smoothie, something like that.
Food for the brain, really, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you've got to look after your brain, and everything that you're putting into here, you're basically is creating you as a human being. So, making sure that you're eating healthily, you're exercising, and going back to kind of keeping your mind active. Actually, mindfulness is a great technique to make us more aware of bringing ourselves back into the present moment. So from a routine perspective, actually it gives us clarity. It gives us a sense of appreciation. When we can actually just be mindful of the task we're doing, or mindful of the moment that we're in, or if we're out on a walk, and actually appreciating all the sounds, all the smells, using all of our senses whilst we're about, actually that helps to reduce stress, and therefore we've got more mind clarity too.
So is mindfulness, just so that I understand it a little bit better, is it more like focus, being more focused, or less focused?
It's being about presentful in the moment. So if you think about, and again, this kind of helps from a stress and anxiety perspective as well, mindfulness is about living in this present moment, right here, right now. So whatever the time is now, this is our moment. This is being mindful. When we have those inner talks going on, what's happening is we're going into our memory and our recall, and obviously it's past events, past experiences, past influences, and everything else. And basically what happens is, if we live too much in the past, that can cause stress, it can cause anxiety, it can also cause depression. And also on the flip side of that is people that live too much in the future. It's okay to
worrying
have
about what's happening, what's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And actually both the past and both the past and the future are not reality. They're gone. The future's not even here, and the past is gone. The only reality,
you can't change it. You can't change those.
No, the only reality is here right now whilst we're talking.
Sure, yeah. Just to change subject slightly, what benefit is having lists, to-do lists, and routines in that regard? How is that helpful in terms of our mindset?
Okay, so around to-do lists, I used to be a big believer of to-do lists, and I think people that are organized tend to like them, because they like to tick off all those small things that they've achieved really quickly, and then they get left with this huge task at the end. So I've actually ditched the to-do list, and I have a to-be list.
To-be list. Oh, well, tell me more about that.
So basically, in order for me to achieve what I need to do for today, for the next week, for the next month, I have to be in a certain mindset. So I need to be disciplined, I need to be focused, I need to be organized. I also need to be friendly and warm, I need to be compassionate and kind. Do you know what I mean? So you're being the person you need to be in the moment whilst needing to achieve. And as far as the to-do list, what I tend to ask people to do is to work in the number of 3. So what are those 3 things I want to achieve today that are going to add value to that longer term goal that I'm looking towards looking to kind of move forward, take that next step. So every task is then made, in your awareness, you're seeking, is it important here right now?
Mm.
Because if you're looking at a to-do list that's got 20, 30 things on, straight away you're in overwhelm. How am I going to get all that done?
Mm. Well, some people just put down, like, say, 5 or 10 things they want to accomplish for that day. So
Mhm.
that's still creating a list, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you've only got three things, you've got more chance of achieving those three things. And
Mm.
the tip is always do the big task first. Get the big hairy goal out the way, and then you can concentrate on the things that are maybe a little bit nicer to do or less taxing, because our energy levels
Mm-hmm.
dictate how productive we are as well. So I think when
Mm-hmm.
you're in tune with, are you a real, is your energy higher in the morning or at night or during the day? And actually do that big task when your energy is high, because you'll put more into it and you'll achieve it quicker.
Okay. So I guess this requires a little bit of habit in getting involved and doing that on a regular basis. How long does it take to sort of change a habit? Because if you're not in the habit of doing these types of routine things, like, I don't know, for me, I would make my lists, and I am a list person, the night
Yeah.
before, and I'll have 5 things to do for the next day type of thing.
Yeah.
How long does it take to sort of break yourself out of a habit or get into a new habit? How long
So,
does it?
so the science behind this, I think there are so many people that will it will be interesting to see what people say. But generally speaking, everyone is different. I think there are these 28-day challenges, 66-day challenges. I'll bust you and break you through in 60 days. Everyone is different. What is important is we take daily steps and we're recognizing those habits, and we
Mm-hmm,
all know when that habit is broken. So
mm-hmm,
you can't expect, the amount of people that say, can you fix me overnight, Lorraine? No. This is, what happens is people set New Year's resolutions and they never work, because, we set it with the wrong intention.
mm-hmm,
And, the first thing is, why do I want to change this habit? What is the importance? Am I doing it for me, or am I doing it for somebody else? And the person needs to be totally bought in and motivated to want to change that habit. And
mm-hmm,
if you want it enough, you'll probably go past that habit breakthrough quicker. What
mm-hmm,
happens also is people don't recognize sometimes the triggers of the habit. So what's causing me to do that thing? So
mm-hmm.
if I gave you a really quick example, really simple one, just to help people understand this. I was eating far too many cookies during lockdown. And obviously a cookie a day over a period of time pretty much is not going to be any good from a weight perspective. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what I realized is my association with the cookie was every time I had a coffee. So
Right.
all I needed to do was actually not drink the coffee. My brain wouldn't know that it wanted the cookie, and therefore I have stopped eating cookies. So you can do some quite quick changes when you associate what the trigger is with the habit. But
But didn't
that's
you need the coffee?
no.
Didn't you? You
So
didn't
I've
need the
given
coffee.
up coffee and I've given up alcohol because I understood what the triggers were.
Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty strong-willed of you, I think, to do
It's
that.
about what you want. The brain is set up in a way that, as long as we know what we want, and this is probably one of the most difficult questions for people, because sometimes they don't know what they don't want, what they do want. What they do know is what they don't want, if that makes sense. But the brain will always go towards the want, the desire. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're saying, I don't want to be stressed, you're going to be stressed because you've basically put stress in the mind. If I said to you, for example, don't think about a pink elephant wearing a blue fluffy hat.
You're gonna think about that, aren't you?
So what is it that you actually want? The brain will work in your favor as long as you program it in the right way,
So
using the right language.
So positive things. So how can we sort of change that inner voice? Because sometimes that tends to be the predominant, negative things tends to dominate. How can we change that then from
So,
negative things?
so the first thing is recognizing it is your voice. So, and again, if you go back to what I was saying about the reality of the past and the future, those voices are thoughts, and the thoughts are based on the past or the future. So,
Hmm.
actually, if you bring yourself back to the present and realize that they're actually not real, they're just a
Hmm.
thought, you can distance yourself from them. You
Hmm.
can't shut them up. So many people say, I'll teach you how to stop all your mind chatter. You cannot stop them. What you can do is recognize that they are a thought that isn't
Yeah.
real. It's just
But
based in your long-term memory.
okay, but how can you then get that new thought in your head then?
You change it to what you want to. So you reframe. So if, for example, you have probably the most common is I'm not good enough, or I will look
Yeah.
stupid. I don't want to speak on stage. Um, I will forget my words. Those kind of common messages, or you know, I don't feel confident. You know,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
what's the flip side of that? If I was to reframe those things, I am good enough.
Hmm.
I am confident. I'm an expert in my field, and I am going to talk. And you're talking that through. So
Hmm.
I encourage people to kind of get a piece of paper and get all of those negative, limited, or limiting beliefs out on paper and put it in front
Hmm.
of you and just look at it and say, is that true? Is it true, really? And
Hmm.
who would I be without that thought?
Hmm.
It's a great way of kind of recognizing that difference between us, because
Hmm.
the thoughts are creating this picture that actually isn't any longer true, because what's true in this moment is exactly what you want it to be. So
Hmm.
how powerful is that? The brain doesn't know the difference
Sure.
between reality and imagination.
Mm. So, in other words, feed yourself with positive thoughts, positive things, etc.
You've got to feed it and act it. Feed
Yeah.
it and act it.
So it takes a little while. I guess that's why we need the help of people like yourself, really.
Yeah.
So, how can a coach actually help us? I guess you're going to say you can help feed us with those positive things, or what else
I
can you?
I will be holding your hand. I will be navigating and helping you to discover what is that internal dialogue saying. What are those constant noises that are keeping you and holding you back? And through the art of questions, that will help you to discover what is it. And sometimes in those conversations, I can take people back to their real childhood, and that's basically a pattern that keeps reforming throughout adulthood. We go through cyclical patterns. Imagine the hamster wheel, and we're just basically going round and round and round and doing the same thing all the time, and it's pretty much
Mhm.
called the insanity loop, because we're not
Yeah,
learning.
doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, right now, I just want to go back to say, because we're nearly at the end, believe it or not. The time has gone really fast, as it does. You mentioned something, or we talked about stress in the very first beginning. Have you heard of oxidative stress by chance?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Ah, because
Eat some
oxidative stress,
blueberries.
I'm sorry,
I said eat lots of blueberries.
eat lots of blueberries. Yeah, that certainly helps. Yeah, there's other things that we could certainly do to help ourselves. You'd have to eat like 11 pounds at least of blueberries. But, that we're going to be doing a seminar on that, a talk on oxidative stress, because that is what's going on inside our bodies. We talk sort of what's going on the outside, so to speak, the stress that's sort of coming at us, but then
Yeah.
there's also that degeneration in our bodies as well, which is
Yeah.
oxidative stress. So we're going to deal with that. But I want to thank you. Now, if you have any questions for Lorraine, you can leave your comments in the chat on Facebook or on YouTube. She will be available to answer any of the questions, etc. And she can get in touch with you in that regard. You can also email me here, and I will get the answers or the questions to her. The email here is strictlyhealthyuk@gmail.com. But I certainly want to thank you, Lorraine, for joining me today,
Oh,
and
thank you.
I'm sure we'll have you back again another time, if that's all
Thank you
right.
very much.
Okay, thank you. So that was Lorraine Stamp, and she's a happiness coach. So she shared some very good tips, I think, that we could certainly use even right now, breathing techniques, and how to help ourselves de-stress, so to speak, and have a more positive mindset. So I just wanted to share what's coming up next week. So today we were dealing, of course, with or mindset matters. Next week we're dealing with money matters with David Cater. So you don't want to miss that. And as I mentioned, we talked about oxidative stress, so what's going wrong in our bodies. On Saturday, the 20th of March, we're having a special talk on oxidative stress, and it's entitled Let's Talk Wellness. Now, it's a deep dive into what's causing us to be ill. And I've heard this talk before, and it is really excellent because, applying the information has really changed my life. So you don't want to miss that. So get in touch with me at Strictly Healthy UK at gmail.com, and we'd be certainly happy to have you come along to that event. And that is on Saturday, the 20th of March at 7 p.m. GMT. Otherwise, join me next time, 4 p.m. GMT, every Thursday. See you next time.